lovely people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you've only just joined us. My name is Nell, and this evening I thought I would talk about an experience which could arguably be one of the most unsettling paranormal experiences that I have had so far. So, a little bit of backstory. The house that I grew up in was very, very old. When we moved in, it must have been at least 200 years old. I was about 6, possibly not quite 7. It's hard to tell really, but I do remember things, strangely enough, didn't really start happening from what I can remember. I may well have, blocked this house, or who knows, but before that, but things didn't start happening in the house until I was something like 10 years old, 11 years old. And obviously, first of all, these things kind of terrified me, being only a young kid. But as with most things in life, you kind of start learning how to adapt to them. Until after a little while, it was just kind of a way of life, yeah, there'd be footsteps in the attic when there was clearly no one up there. There'd be stuff moved around, then goodness knows what else. But like I said, you kind of start to learn to adapt to these kind of things. And then one night, I must have been about 14, I woke up one night, and at the time I had a high up cabin bed. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe know it by a different name, I'll post up a photo up here. But yeah, I had a high cabin bed, and I rolled over, looked down into my room, and I noticed someone stood in the middle of the room looking up at me. And first of all, I thought, oh, my mum's come to check on me before she goes to bed, like she does every night. And then I was kind of hit with the realisation of, okay, that was weird. Someone just fell down. But yeah, I was hit with the realisation that whoever it was standing in my room was not my mum, purely based on the height. For reference, both myself, my mother and my grandmother actually are all quite short, so yeah, and yeah, so it couldn't have been my mum. So then logical side of the brain thinks, okay, it's my dad then. Wait, why would dad be wearing a long dress, or any kind of dress for that matter? And then I'm hit with the third realisation of, I can't see this person's face, by which I mean I can't make out any distinct facial features at all. Now, it may be because obviously it was dark, so it would have been harder to make out any kind of features then in the dark. I'm short-sighted. I have to wear contact lenses, so It may have just been, you know, whoever it was stood too far away from me for me to be able to make out anything. But yeah, it was very, you know, for those of you who may have watched Haunting of Bly Manor, the ghost in that, with no face, yeah, it was like her. And yeah, it scared the living hell out of me. And so by this point, it must have been a good 10 or 20 seconds, and they were still there, still looking at me. And so I reached round to my side to switch on the little reading light I had next to my bed. I didn't take my eyes off this person. Switched it on, and the minute the light went on, there was no one there at all. And yeah, the skeptics may say, you know, oh, it may have been a shadow, a trick of the light, and like that. No, I know what I saw. It was a person stood upright looking at me, and you know that sensation you get when you can feel yourself being stared at? Yeah, it was real strong. And I've never had anything like that happen before or since, luckily. Yeah, I never saw her in my room again after that. Myself and other people saw her occasionally, mostly walking out in the walking outside in the garden, which is quite interesting. I don't know, maybe that was her favourite place in life, or maybe in her time there was like the house was bigger, so it was something else maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that was my very first full-bodied apparition experience. Not something I'd particularly want to experience again, in all honesty. That was yeah, definitely dramatic. And yeah, obviously there were other things that happened over the years that myself and my family lived there, and although I never saw him, apparently there was also a man spirit there as well, which my dad's wife, my stepmother, and a couple of her kids saw a few times actually. And apparently he would often be watching my dad, interestingly enough. I do wonder whether that was more of a spirit attached to my dad rather than the house itself, but again, who knows. And yeah, that is the story of when I woke up one night to find a ghost watching me sleep. I hope you enjoyed it. Before we end the video, I do want to make 2 shout outs. One to my lovely friend Graham, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, honey. I'm sorry I can't be there to celebrate with you. Hopefully after this COVID and 2020 malarkey is all over, we'll be able to meet up and celebrate at another point. Mwah, I love you. And second shout out is to Kev, who is the host of the podcast which is my absolute favourite. We Need to Talk About Ghosts. I've been listening to it for a good year or so now, and it is honestly so funny, and the stories are amazing, that listeners send in. And yeah, I highly recommend you go and check him out. That's We Need to Talk About Ghosts, and he also does another podcast called The Dark Paranormal, which is again listener paranormal stories, but on a much more darker and somber note, which I do not recommend listening to just before you go to bed, like I did the other week. Not a good idea. Yeah, definitely save it for the daytime. But no, seriously, go and check both of those out. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you listen to podcasts on. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, go check him out. And with that, I think we will draw the video to a close. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, sleep well.